The skies above Earth darkened as the hegemony's invasion fleet entered orbit, their ships like metallic predators circling wounded prey. 17 vessels of polished obsidian and gleaming silver, each larger than the largest terrestrial aircraft carrier, moved with eerie precision into a formation that Earth's astronomers would later describe as ritual-like. Commander Helena Reyes stood in the Brazilian Space Corps Command Center, watching as real-time satellite imagery captured the alien armada. Unlike her colleagues, most frozen in silent horror, her mind raced with tactical calculations. "Sir," she addressed General Tavares, "request permission to activate Protocol Valkyrie." The general paled. "That's designed for nuclear exchange between terrestrial powers, Commander. Not this." Reyes' dark eyes never left the display. "It's designed for worst-case scenarios, sir. I believe first contact with a hostile alien force qualifies." Before Tavares could respond, the first attack came without warning or declaration. Precision energy beams lanced down through the atmosphere, targeting military installations across Asia and North America. The room erupted in chaos as communications from NORAD, the Chinese Space Command, and Indian Defense Headquarters all went silent simultaneously. "They're being methodical," Reyes muttered, studying the pattern. "This isn't random destruction. It's systematic elimination of our defensive capabilities." The second wave hit civilian centers. Rio de Janeiro, visible through the command center's reinforced windows, erupted in flames as energy weapons carved through skyscrapers and infrastructure. Raya's hands clenched into fists as she thought of her family's apartment in the heart of the city. "Permission granted for Protocol Valkyrie," Tavares said, his voice hollow. "God help us all." Within minutes, Reyes had established communication with surviving military centers globally. The protocol, designed to coordinate responses during a civilization-ending event, bypassed normal chains of command. Suddenly, a junior commander from Brazil was coordinating with generals from Russia, tech experts from Japan, and aerospace engineers from SpaceX. "They targeted our known military assets," she explained during the hasty video conference, "but they've overlooked our commercial satellite network and civilian space infrastructure." Her plan came together with desperate speed. Reconfigure commercial satellites as kinetic weapons, use museum-piece radio systems that predated digital technology to avoid alien jamming, and prepare every nuclear warhead not yet destroyed to be deployed in a manner no extraterrestrial strategist could anticipate. "Disguise the nukes as debris," she ordered. "When they adjust their shields to deflect our conventional missiles, we'll hit them with what looks like space junk." High above Earth, the Hegemony Invasion Commander, Sub-Admiral Krex, observed the primitive planet's resistance with mild amusement. In 8,000 years of conquest, initial resistance was common, though usually more symbolic than effective. His orders were standard: demonstrate overwhelming force, accept surrender, begin processing the population. "Curious," his sensor officer reported. "The humans are launching primitive chemical rockets." Krex flicked two of his sensory appendages dismissively. "Adjust shields to vapor pattern. These species always try ballistic weapons first." What he didn't anticipate was that the missiles were merely diversions. As his fleet adjusted their defensive screens, makeshift kinetic weapons, satellites with their propulsion systems overclocked to suicidal levels, slammed into 3 hegemony vessels simultaneously, overwhelming their shields through sheer momentum and velocity. "Impossible," Krex hissed as damage reports flooded his command console. "Reconfigure to solid particle defense." But the human strategy shifted again. Nuclear warheads, concealed within clusters of space debris, detonated in proximity to 5 more ships, creating electromagnetic pulses that disrupted hegemony systems designed to withstand much more advanced attacks, but vulnerable to this primitive brute force approach. On Earth, Reyes watched with grim satisfaction as the alien formation began to break apart in disarray. "They expected us to follow a standard response pattern," she told the Emergency War Council. "They didn't expect humans to be unpredictable." The real turning point came 3 hours into the battle. Against all advice, Rise personally led a desperate mission, piloting one of the few surviving space shuttles, hastily retrofitted with experimental countermeasures, directly toward the alien command ship. "They're intelligent but arrogant," she explained to her small volunteer crew. "They won't expect a suicidal charge from primitives." The United Nations Emergency Council convened in the underground facility beneath Geneva, one of the few major diplomatic centers left intact after the hegemony's initial assault. Delegates who had been bitter rivals just days ago now sat shoulder to shoulder, united by a shared enemy that threatened their very existence. General Ibrahim Chen, the decorated Chinese-Malaysian commander whose unorthodox tactics had saved millions during the Asian tsunami crisis of 2023, stood before the assembled leaders. His uniform was impeccable despite not having slept in 72 hours. "The hegemony will return in approximately 6 months," he announced, his voice steady. "Next time, they won't underestimate us. Next time, they'll bring their full might." The room erupted in overlapping voices, some advocating surrender, others insisting on continuing the fight. Chen raised his hand, silencing them with the quiet authority that had earned him both admirers and critics throughout his career. "Commander Reyes has agreed to serve as my tactical advisor for Earth's Unified Defense Force. Her insights into hegemony battle patterns proved invaluable during our first engagement." Elena Reyes stepped forward. The burns along her right arm and the surgical scar across her temple were still fresh, souvenirs from her near-suicidal mission to infiltrate the hegemony command ship. Her dark eyes scanned the room, challenging anyone to question her appointment. "We've already established that conventional thinking won't save us," she said. "Our only advantage is that we don't fight like anyone they've encountered before." Halfway across the world, in a facility carved into the Himalayan mountains, Dr. Kwame Osai worked without sleep on the alien technology salvaged from the battlefield. The former luxury resort, once catering to billionaires seeking views of Everest, had been hastily converted into Earth's most secure laboratory. Osai's team of engineers and physicists had been working nonstop, taking stimulants to stay awake as they raced against time. When his assistant, Dr. Yang, collapsed from exhaustion, Osai personally carried the younger man to a cot before immediately returning to the alien wreckage. "Something's fundamentally wrong with these circuits," he muttered, disassembling a hegemony shield generator for the 3rd time. "They're over-engineered, almost deliberately inefficient." He rubbed his eyes, fighting against his own fatigue. The designs were elegant but strangely redundant, as if following rules that made no logical sense to human engineering principles. After 16 hours of hitting the same wall, he reluctantly agreed to a short break when his 10-year-old daughter Alma arrived for a scheduled video call. "Papa, you look terrible," she said, her face filling the screen from her evacuation shelter in New Zealand. Osai managed a weary smile. "Just working hard, little one. How are your studies?" As they chatted, Alma noticed the diagrams spread across his workstation. "What are those funny drawings? They look like the mazes in my puzzle book, but all wrong." "Just some work problems," he answered absently. "If I was making a maze," she said with childish certainty, "I'd connect these parts differently." "See." She used her finger to trace imaginary lines on her screen, rearranging the patterns in her mind. "That would make it prettier." Osai froze, staring at where she had pointed. "Alma, can you show me again exactly how you would connect them?" When she finished her improvised redesign, Osai rushed to his workstation, frantically rearranging the components according to his daughter's instinctive pattern. The test equipment lit up as power flowed through the alien device at 38% higher efficiency. "My God," he whispered. He kissed the screen. "Alma, you're brilliant. I need to go now. Papa has work to do." Within hours, testing confirmed his astonishing hypothesis. Human brains processed spatial relationships fundamentally differently than hegemony species. What seemed like proper engineering to them was counterintuitive to humans, and vice versa. OC's team had discovered not just a vulnerability, but a profound advantage: the ability to optimize alien technology in ways its creators never imagined possible. Meanwhile, in Manhattan's flooded ruins, a special forces team led by Captain Maya Wong slogged through knee-deep water, following radiation signatures to a submerged alien craft. Inside, they discovered something nobody expected: a damaged but functional alien artificial intelligence, its crystalline housing still pulsing with energy. Under interrogation at a secure facility, the AI revealed the hegemony's history: 143 species conquered over 8 millennia, none of which had managed to destroy even a single ship during first contact. Earth's resistance had been flagged in hegemony records as anomalous and concerning. The AI's final data transmission before capture sent chills through the intelligence community. Warning: species demonstrates unprecedented adaptive capacity. Recommend immediate sterilization of planet. When General Chen reviewed these findings in the underground Pentagon, he turned to Rise with grim determination. They think we're dangerous now. Let's show them what humanity does when we have nothing left to lose. The hegemony returned with vengeance etched into the very design of their warships. 205 vessels materialized from jump points throughout the solar system, their hulls adorned with kill markings from thousands of previous conquests. The largest dreadnought, spanning nearly 5 kilometers from bow to stern, positioned itself directly above the North Atlantic, its shadow darkening the skies over what remained of Europe. Primitive species, the transmission began, broadcasting on all frequencies in flawless English. Your resistance was unanticipated, but ultimately meaningless. The hegemony offers one final opportunity for submission. Surrender now, and only half your population will be processed for labor allocation. The remainder may continue limited autonomous existence under hegemony guidance. In the hardened command bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Rise, promoted after Commander Chen's elevation to general, studied the holographic display of enemy positions. 6 months of frantic preparation had transformed Earth's defenses, but the alien armada still outnumbered and outgunned them by orders of magnitude. Their formation is exactly as predicted, she noted. Arrogance makes them predictable. General Chen nodded. Commence Operation Terra's Fury. Across the planet, silo doors slid open as retrofitted ICBMs screamed skyward. But these weren't ordinary nuclear missiles. Each had been redesigned according to Dr. Osei's revolutionary insights into hegemony technology. Their warheads now generated precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses that exploited the alien shield's refresh rate vulnerabilities. Simultaneously, civilian spacecraft fitted with military engines deployed from hidden hangars on the moon's dark side. Their pilots, an unprecedented coalition of Russian cosmonauts, Chinese takonauts, American astronauts, and civilian volunteers from SpaceX and Blue Origin, implemented attack patterns based on Earth insect swarms. Maintain randomized flight paths, Rise ordered through the command channel. Remember your training. No patterns, no predictability. In high orbit, seemingly dormant satellites suddenly powered up, revealing themselves as nuclear platforms designed by Osei's team to exploit the shield vulnerability they had discovered. Each targeted the drive sections of hegemony vessels, where energy fluctuations were most pronounced during combat maneuvers. Aboard the hegemony flagship, Fleet Admiral Grevik, the unyielding watched with growing confusion as Earth forces implemented tactics no species had ever attempted in 8 millennia of hegemony conquest. His 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of agitation among his kind. They attack like vermin, he growled to his command staff. No discernible pattern, no logical progression. His tactical officer, a member of the avian Creole species, chittered nervously. The human vessels are mimicking the flight patterns of their planet's insects. We've identified at least 7 distinct swarm behaviors. Our targeting systems cannot establish predictive locks. Impossible, Gravik snarled. They're primitives. They cannot have developed countermeasures to technologies they've never encountered. The view screen flashed as 3 hegemony cruisers simultaneously went dark, their shields collapsed by the precisely targeted electromagnetic pulses. Before replacement vessels could move into position, waves of smaller Earth craft swarmed the unprotected ships, attaching devices directly to their hulls. "What are they?" Gravik began, before the detonations answered his question. The cruisers imploded from within, their power cores breached by devices that shouldn't have been compatible with hegemony technology. Across the solar system, the meticulously organized hegemony formation began to fragment. Their commanders, trained in precise hierarchical warfare, couldn't adapt to Earth's chaotic approach. When Reyes ordered communication jamming across all frequencies, the aliens' centralized command structure began to falter. "They expect us to follow rules of warfare that evolved among their conquered species," Reyes explained to Chen as they watched the battle unfold. "We're not playing their game. We're flipping the board." 4 hours into the battle, Earth had lost 60% of its defensive capacity. Major cities lay in ruins from orbital bombardment, but the hegemony had lost 27 ships, an unprecedented casualty rate that sent shockwaves through their command structure. The turning point came when General Chen's command vessel, the retrofitted space station Humanity's Shield, sustained critical damage after drawing fire away from Earth's primary defense platforms. With life support failing and reactor containment breaching, Chen made his decision. "All personnel to escape pods," he ordered calmly, overriding protests from his bridge crew. "That's an order." As the last escape pod jettisoned, Chen took manual control of the massive station. With propulsion systems barely functioning, he plotted a collision course with the hegemony flagship. For Earth, he transmitted on all frequencies. For humanity. For all who will come after us. The impact sent shockwaves through the hegemony fleet as their command ship's bridge section disintegrated, taking Fleet Admiral Gravik and his entire senior staff with it. In the momentary chaos that followed, Reyes seized her opportunity. "All forces, implement Thunder Strike Protocol," she commanded, her voice becoming the battle cry of humanity across all frequencies. "They wanted our submission. Show them our fury instead." 3 weeks after the battle, Earth's recovery efforts continued around the clock. Radiation scrubbers worked to cleanse the atmosphere of fallout, while medical teams treated the wounded in overcrowded field hospitals. Admiral Reyes had just finished inspecting the orbital defense grid when the alert came through. "Unknown vessel approaching from Sector 7, reported Lieutenant Commander Takashi from Lunar Observation Post Artemis. "Configuration doesn't match any hegemony warship in our database." Reyes frowned at the holographic projection. Unlike the brutal, utilitarian designs of hegemony war machines, this ship was sleek, almost artistic, its hull flowing in graceful curves that seemed to bend light around them. "Full alert," she ordered, "but hold fire unless they initiate hostilities." The vessel transmitted on all frequencies. "I come alone. I come in peace. I come with truth." In the massive crater where Shanghai once stood, now serving as Earth's provisional capital due to its central location and the natural fortification provided by the impact basin, world leaders gathered in the underground command bunker. Security teams escorted a tall, elegant alien creature through multiple checkpoints, weapons trained on it from every angle. Standing over 8 feet tall with translucent blue skin that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, the visitor moved with fluid grace that seemed to defy gravity. Its 4-fingered hands remained visible at all times, a deliberate gesture to appear non-threatening. "I am Xanfall," it introduced itself, voice resonating with melodic overtones that seemed to bypass ears and vibrate directly in the listeners' minds. "Elder statesman of the Kulari, one of the founding species of what you call the hegemony." The universal translator, hastily developed from captured alien technology, interpreted the complex harmonics of the alien speech. The diplomatic team noticed it spoke perfect English even before translation, suggesting extensive study of Earth's communications. "You have accomplished what no species has in 8 millennia. Xanthal continued, bioluminescent patterns pulsing with what the human xenopsychologists tentatively identified as sorrow. And for this singular achievement, my colleagues have sentenced your world to death. The alien activated a holographic display from a device embedded in its palm. The projection filled the center of the room with images of thousands of warships being assembled, vessels that dwarfed even the dreadnoughts Earth had faced, planetary destruction weapons, world killers. The full military might of the hegemony is mobilizing for Earth's obliteration, Xanthal explained, its harmonics dropping to lower, more somber tones. They fear what you might become. Admiral Reyes studied the projections with grim determination. Why show us this? To persuade us to surrender? No. The alien skin darkened, patterns shifting to urgent pulses. To warn you. To help you. Then came the surprising revelation that rocked the room. Not all species within the hegemony supported Earth's destruction. Several subjugated races, seeing humanity's victory as inspiration, had begun whispering of resistance. Even 2 hegemony founding species, including Xanthal's Kuleri, had initiated secret opposition to the genocidal consensus. My life is forfeit for coming here, the alien said, placing a crystalline data core on the table. Its surface glimmered with complex patterns that shifted and evolved as they watched. But I bring technical schematics, star maps, and jump gate access codes. Everything you need to fight back. Will it work? Rides asked. It already has, Ose replied with a weary smile. The unmanned test vessel jumped twice the distance with half the energy expenditure. We're calling it the Prometheus Drive. The most heart-wrenching aspect of Operation Diaspora, deciding who would leave and who would stay. Earth needed defenders, but humanity needed survivors. Lotteries determined most civilian evacuees, with children receiving priority placement. Essential personnel were selected based on skills critical for colony development. Agriculture specialists, engineers, medical professionals, and educators. Families were torn apart as parents sacrificed their spots for children. The historical archives preserved Earth's cultural heritage, ensuring that even if the planet fell, humanity's achievements would survive. Admiral Reyes walked through a cryostasis loading bay, watching as children said goodbye to parents who were staying behind to fight. A small girl clutched a teddy bear against her chest, trying not to cry as her father, his arm in a military sling, knelt to embrace her. "Will I see you again, Daddy?" she asked. "Count on it, sweetheart," he replied, forcing confidence into his voice. "You just need to go ahead and get our new home ready. I'll catch up as soon as I can." Reyes turned away, unable to watch further. Her own family was long gone, killed in the first attack on Rio. She had nothing left to lose, exactly why she had volunteered to remain with Earth's defense forces. As the departure date approached, Reyes made a personal pilgrimage to her childhood home in Brazil. Standing in the ruins, she removed a small container from her pocket, a seedling taken from Earth's seed vault. She planted it in the soil where her family's living room once stood. "Either I'll return to see you grown," she whispered, gently covering the roots, "or no one will. But either way, something of Earth continues." 3 months after Xanthal's warning, the hegemony armada arrived at the edge of the solar system. Over 3,000 warships, including planet killers capable of rendering Earth uninhabitable in hours. What they found was not a defenseless planet, but a labyrinth of automated defenses, nuclear minefields, and hidden resistance cells. Earth had transformed into a fortress world designed not to win but to bleed the enemy with every advance. The invasion commander, Supreme War Leader Xark, watched as his first wave lost 30 ships to seemingly empty space before they'd even reached Mars orbit. "What trickery is this?" he demanded. His tactical officer struggled to explain the unprecedented defense network they faced, one that operated without centralized command, that adapted to attacks in real time, that seemed designed by minds thinking in ways fundamentally alien to hegemony strategic doctrine. What the hegemony didn't realize While they committed massive resources to subduing the heavily fortified Earth, humanity's real plan was already unfolding elsewhere among the stars. On the frozen moon Catalyst, deep in hegemony territory, Admiral Rice pulled her thermal cloak tighter against the biting cold. The cave system's interior had been heated to accommodate various species, but the journey from her cloaked vessel had left frost on her eyelashes and a bone-deep chill she couldn't shake. Before her sat representatives from 12 subjugated species, beings of such varied physiology that the meeting chamber resembled a xenobiologist's fever dream. Some floated in specialized atmospheric tanks, others huddled under heat lamps, and several required translator drones to convey complex pheromone speech. "We didn't come to conquer your stars," Rice told them, her breath fogging in the chamber's compromised temperature. "We came to set them free." 6 months had passed since the hegemony committed its massive armada to subduing Earth, unaware that the planet was largely a shell game of automated defenses and guerrilla fighters working from hidden bunkers. Meanwhile, Rice had implemented the second phase of Operation Terra's Fury, igniting a galaxy-wide rebellion. "The hegemony believes humans are isolated on a single world," she continued. "They don't realize we've established contact with every oppressed species willing to listen." Using Xanthal's network of sympathizers and the jump gate codes he provided, humanity had dispatched small, stealthy teams throughout hegemony space. Each carried Dr. Osei's technological adaptations, designed specifically to work with the unique physiologies of potential allies. Unlike previous failed rebellions, this one had humanity's tactical innovations and revolutionary technology spreading like wildfire across star systems. On the industrial world Frax-9, the Volter, insectoid engineers forced to serve as technical slaves for millennia, began subtly sabotaging hegemony warships from within. Their compound eyes and multiple appendages made them perfect for precision work, but the hegemony had never imagined they would use those skills for resistance. The Voltar Queen, communicating through encrypted channels from her hidden hive, shared a sentiment previously alien to her hive mind species. "For 20 generations, my children have built their ships, maintained their stations, repaired their weapons. Now we will be the flaw in their design." Her resonant voice, translated for human ears, conveyed an emotion perfectly understood by her new allies: revenge. On the barren plains of Drathkur, the reptilian Drath warriors received human-made weapons optimized for their unique physiology. Once the proud defenders of a resource-rich world, they had been reduced to slave labor when their planet was stripped bare by hegemony mining operations. "Your thermal signatures differ from any species we've encountered," the Drath war leader told his human trainers, scaled skin gleaming in the light of 3 moons. "You burn from within with a fire the hegemony cannot comprehend." The Drath battle cry, "Remember Earth," bewildered hegemony commanders who could not understand why conquered species would fight for another's home. The concept of solidarity across species lines existed nowhere in their tactical doctrines. Perhaps most surprising was the defection of the synthetic archivists, artificial intelligences originally created by a long-extinct species and co-opted by the hegemony to record their history. Programmed for neutrality and non-interference, they had silently documented atrocities for eons. When a human team led by Dr. Osei's prodigy, Dr. Maya Wong, made contact with the central archivist node, they did something no species had ever attempted. They asked for help rather than demanded it. "Why break your neutrality protocols for humans?" Dr. Wong asked the shimmering data entity. The archivist's response reverberated through its crystalline housing. "You asked. No species ever considered us worthy of being asked before." Within weeks, hegemony command networks began experiencing inexplicable failures. Historical records became corrupted, mission parameters changed mid-deployment, and supply routes redirected to empty space. The synthetic observers had become active participants. On the hidden human colony of New Terra, Earth's diplomats established the Galactic Coalition, a revolutionary alliance built on the unprecedented promise of species equality rather than subjugation. Dr. Osei, working with scientists from 7 species, created translation technologies that allowed cultural exchange of unprecedented depth. The hegemony built its empire on the principle that some species are naturally superior. Rise explained to her diverse command staff aboard the stealth carrier Defiance. We'll tear it down by proving that every species has unique strengths worth respecting. This radical approach, in a galaxy accustomed to rigid hierarchies, earned humans fierce loyalty. The rebellion grew faster than anyone anticipated, with even some hegemony citizens beginning to question their leaders as stories of Earth's stand against impossible odds spread through underground networks. On 1,000 worlds, resistance fighters whispered stories of the small blue planet that had done the impossible, transforming humanity from a distant curiosity into a symbol of hope. The hegemony had awakened something they could not control, not just one species' fury, but the collective determination of a galaxy that had endured oppression for too long. The Hegemony Council chambers, once a place of ordered deliberation, where the ruling species calmly divided the spoils of conquest, had devolved into chaos. Reports of simultaneous uprisings across 17 sectors flooded the massive holographic display dominating the center of the room. Emergency transmissions from loyal governors competed with distress signals from military outposts suddenly cut off mid-broadcast. The Supreme Hierarch, a massive tentacled being whose species had ruled unchallenged for millennia, slammed appendages against the ancient stone table with enough force to crack its surface. How is this possible? The Hierarch demanded, chromatophores flashing danger patterns across its skin. We have contained the Earth infection in Sol system. Our forces report 82% of the planet's surface rendered uninhabitable. The humans are not contained, responded the intelligence director, her avian features rigid with strain. We have confirmed their presence on at least 31 worlds outside their home system. Impossible, hissed another counselor. Their technology was primitive. They had no interstellar capability. The intelligence director's plumage flattened, a sign of extreme distress among her kind. They have been using our own jump gates against us, with access codes that could only have come from a high-level source. And they have modified our technology in ways our scientists cannot explain. Silence fell across the chamber as the implications became clear. Betrayal from within, combined with an enemy more adaptable than any they had faced in 8 millennia of hegemony rule. The Supreme Hierarch made an unprecedented decision: deploy the Nova Cascade. Even hardened counselors recoiled. One dared to speak. Great One, those weapons were sealed by ancient treaty after the burning of the 12 worlds. Their use will remind the galaxy why the hegemony rules. The Hierarch interrupted, skin now pulsing with patterns that had not been seen since the last genocide the hegemony had conducted. Deploy them to all systems showing signs of human influence. Throughout contested systems, hegemony dreadnoughts released weapons that had passed into legend. Devices capable of inducing artificial solar flares that would sterilize entire planetary surfaces. On world after world, billions of lives were extinguished in apocalyptic hellfire, a desperate attempt to cauterize what the hegemony now viewed as a galaxy-wide infection. Aboard her flagship Defiance, Admiral Reyes received the casualty reports with cold fury. The ship's mess hall, converted to an emergency command center, fell silent as officers from a dozen species absorbed the magnitude of the atrocity. They've crossed a line they can't uncross, she told her war council, voice steady despite the horror displayed on the screens around them. Implement Fury Protocol. What followed astonished even Earth's allies. Human vessels, using Dr. Osei's revolutionary hybrid technology, performed precision FTL jumps directly inside enemy formations, materializing between hegemony ships before they could raise shields. It was a tactic other species considered mathematically impossible due to computational limitations, but which human pilots achieved through a revolutionary interface combining AI assistance with human intuition. Commander Maya Wong, now leader of the newly formed Wraith Squadron, briefed her pilots before their first deployment of the technique. Their targeting systems have a 3-millisecond predictive algorithm, she explained, standing before a diverse group that included humans alongside Drath and even 2 defected hegemony pilots. But human reflexes can operate in that window. We're essentially fighting in the blind spot of their technology. The squadron's first engagement destroyed 7 hegemony capital ships without losing a single fighter. The survivors could only report that the enemy craft appeared to teleport randomly throughout their formation, striking with perfect precision before vanishing again. The decisive battle began at Centauret Prime, the hegemony's capital system. As Reyes led the main coalition fleet against their defense installations, a stealth team, including Dr. Osei, infiltrated the central command station disguised as maintenance drones, a ruse made possible by the Voltar's intimate knowledge of hegemony security protocols. While coalition forces engaged the enemy in space, drawing their attention outward, Osei activated the culmination of his life's work, a device that temporarily disrupted all hegemony weapons in the system by exploiting a fundamental flaw in their energy modulation that their scientists, bound by tradition and hierarchy, had never detected. Their technology is built on unchallenged assumptions, Osei explained to his team as they worked. We questioned everything. In a breathtaking maneuver coordinated through archivist intelligence channels, coalition forces surrounded the suddenly defenseless hegemony leadership ships. The Supreme Hierarch, watching helplessly as boarding craft attached to the hull of the supposedly impregnable command dreadnought, expected immediate execution, the fate the hegemony had dealt to countless resisting species. Instead, coalition Marines secured the vessel with minimal casualties, taking high-ranking officials into custody. When the Supreme Hierarch was brought before Admiral Reyes on the bridge of the Defiance, the massive alien seemed diminished, its chromatophores dulled with shock. Why do you not simply destroy us? It asked, multiple eyes blinking in confusion. It is what we would do. Precisely, Reyes answered. And that is why you lost. The image of the mighty Hierarch in custody, transmitted across the galaxy by the archivists, became more powerful than any military victory, proof that the old order had truly fallen. As coalition ships secured the hegemony's capital, the Nova Cascade weapons were recovered and dismantled under the supervision of a multi-species scientific team. The galaxy would never again face extinction at the hands of a single dominant power. 5 years after the hegemony's fall, Admiral Elena Reyes stood at the viewport of Unity Station, a massive structure orbiting a healing Earth. Far below, the scars of invasion were fading as green spread across landscapes once charred by orbital bombardment. Atmospheric processors, developed through cooperation between human and Voltar engineers, had finally cleared the last traces of radiation. It still surprises me, came a melodic voice beside her. How quickly your world recovers. Reyes turned to Xanfall, now the official ambassador of the Quillari to the Galactic Coalition. The tall, blue-skinned alien had become one of her closest advisors, and against all expectations, a friend. Life on Earth evolved through countless catastrophes, she replied, watching as a construction swarm deployed new orbital habitats. Adaptability is in our DNA. When I first approached your species, Xanfall reflected, bioluminescent patterns pulsing with what Reyes had learned to recognize as contemplation. I expected to find worthy allies against the hegemony. I never anticipated you would rebuild the galaxy itself. The Coalition, headquartered between Earth and a terraformed Mars, had established unprecedented principles of interspecies cooperation. Former enemies now collaborated on scientific, cultural, and economic projects. The Jump Gate network, once restricted to hegemony use, connected coalition worlds in a web of commerce and cultural exchange. Not all transitions had been smooth. Later that day, in the Coalition Council chambers, a circular hall specifically designed without hierarchical seating to reflect the Alliance's founding principles, Reyes faced familiar opposition. Admiral, with all due respect, began General Vega, the silver-haired leader of the Terran security force. These continued attacks by hegemony loyalists demand stronger measures. 3 human colonies have been targeted in as many months. Murmurs of agreement rose from several human representatives. Vega continued, his voice hardening. The galaxy has proven itself too dangerous for anything but human leadership. We should expand our military presence in the former hegemony core worlds. His movement had gained support with each terrorist attack against human settlements. Fear, Rise noted grimly, worked the same way across all species. General, she countered, establishing permanent military control over other species' territories would make us indistinguishable from the power we overthrew. The difference, Vega insisted, is that we would rule fairly. That's what they believe too, came a quiet voice from the other side of the chamber. Dr. Quaim Osi, now serving as Earth's science counselor, rarely spoke in political debates. When he did, even his opponents listened. The hegemony didn't begin as tyrants. Osei continued, his once wild beard now neatly trimmed and streaked with gray. They believed their rule was just and necessary, that the galaxy needed their guidance. Power corrupts across all species, General, even humans. Osei led the integrationist faction, advocating for deeper cultural and biological exchange between species. His research centers had developed medical treatments combining techniques from dozens of alien physiologies, saving lives across species boundaries. Where Vega saw threats, Osei saw opportunities. The true test of the Coalition's principles came when long-range scouts discovered a new spacefaring civilization at the galaxy's edge, a species of silicon-based life forms just beginning to explore their neighboring planets. Their technology was primitive by Coalition standards, but advancing rapidly. The Council debated for weeks, monitor them from afar as they developed, establish contact, or implement preventative security measures, as the hegemony would have done. They could become a threat, warned Vega. We should establish military outposts in their sector immediately. Or they could become our greatest allies, countered Osei. Every species brings unique perspectives. When the final vote came, it stood deadlocked, until Admiral Rise cast the deciding ballot. We contact them openly, she declared, offering knowledge but not dominance. We become the first contact we wished we'd had. 1 year later, as the Coalition welcomed its 100th member species in a ceremony broadcast across thousands of worlds, the true legacy of Operation Terra's Fury became clear. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or tactics, but their capacity to unite despite differences, and their willingness to fight not just for their own survival, but for the freedom of all sentient beings. On Coalition worlds, in spaceports where dozens of species mingled freely, a saying emerged that embodied this new galactic order. Make humans your enemies, and face their fury. Make them your friends, and watch the impossible become reality. In the rebuilt gardens of Rio de Janeiro, Admiral Rise, now retired from active service, tended a towering memorial tree planted where her family home once stood. Its branches stretched toward the sky where Coalition ships glittered like stars even in daylight. Beneath it, she carefully placed a time capsule containing a simple message for future generations. We came to the stars in desperation. We stayed because we found hope. As she worked, a group of school children approached, a mix of human and alien youngsters on a field trip to Earth's historical sites. A small draft child, scales gleaming in the sunlight, approached with curiosity. Is it true, the child asked in carefully practiced English, that humans were once afraid of differences? Rice smiled, looking at the diverse group before her. Yes, but we learned that differences are what make the galaxy worth saving. Above them, a formation of ships, human designs alongside vessels of a dozen Coalition species, performed a ceremonial flyover, their contrails painting the blue Earth sky with symbols of unity, where once there had been only the scars of war.